Okay, it is working. Okay, good deal. Yeah, it showed a black screen. So awesome. Good to see you guys. If anybody is watching now or in the future, hope you guys are doing well. Make sure. Awesome. Cool. You guys chat. Let me know where you're watching from. Hope everything's going well for you. What is up, Ali G? Good to see you. How are you doing? Where are you from, Ali G? And let me know where everybody's watching from. I'd like to answer a few questions for you guys related to anxiety recovery, panic attacks, depersonalization, realization, existential obsession, rumination, all that fun stuff. No, it's terrible. Steven, Ormonio, New York. Awesome. How's the weather down there in New York? Ali G from Turkey, man. I don't know anything about Turkey, but I do not like turkey the meat, man. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I detest turkey. But the country, though, I'm sure the country is good. Awesome. So if you guys want to lay any questions on me, I'd be happy to do my best to answer them for you. Like I said, anxiety, panic attacks, depersonalization, realization, trauma, depression, addiction, existential obsession, rumination, anxious thoughts, all that stuff. Let me know. And I'll be happy to encourage you. Steven says, I'm getting the RISE program next month. Awesome. Well, we would love to have you in the family, man. Absolutely. Just whenever you're able to do it, just shoot over an application, book a call, and we'll get you rolling, man. The country is okay. Well, I wonder how it is compared to the United States. But anyway, guys, lay some questions on me. I just got a few minutes here. I've got to get to some clients here in about 20 minutes or so. But I want to see if I could at least answer a couple questions. You may notice that my background has changed a little bit. I actually moved my office into my wife and I's bedroom because my current office was right in the middle of the house, right by the door. And like it's like an open space. So you've got the kitchen, the living room, and then you've got my office was right next to there. And so all day long, you know, I'd be getting distracted, and it's very hard to get work done whenever you've got people watching TV and wanting to make lunch and all that stuff. So I moved my office into our bedroom where it's nice and quiet. And so anyway, that's our bed right there, as you can see. Okay, I have all the stuff you mentioned, but mostly anxiety and PD. I think you probably meant to say DP. Cool. Well, do you have any questions specifically about how to overcome those things? Do you have a strategy right now that you're working on? He said, I'm worried if I can recover in the long run. I have hope, though, trying to do my best. Absolutely. Well, I do believe that you can heal. I healed after many years of symptoms. I spent well over a decade experiencing anxiety, and, you know, I used to have 20 panic attacks a day. And the panic attacks lasted well over a year. It was bad. And suffered with DPDR for 2 years constantly, 5 years off and on. And yeah, I've been through a lot of stuff. So anyway, with that being said, you said this might be an inappropriate question, but does, let's call it fapping, stop recovery? Because I've seen that you said P word is a dissociative experience. So great question, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. So what I would say is, I don't know that it would stop your recovery, because recovery of anxiety and panic attacks and trauma and DPR, all this stuff, there's a lot of layers to it. And so there's probably not going to be any one thing that is going to jeopardize your entire recovery. Possibly. It depends on what it is. But it's definitely something that we need to get to the root of, right? Like, why is somebody looking to these things? Well, they're balancing tools, right? They're a way for people to get back to homeostasis, right? That's really the nature of addiction. Is it's a balancing tool. It's a way to mitigate the pain, dissociate from the pain in their body and in their life. Usually, not always. There are some exceptions to that. Sometimes there's just social pressure, but most of the time, people aren't getting enough dopamine and they don't feel good. And they want to feel good, and we're wired to get back to balance. And so the P word, or fapping, or nicotine, or alcohol, or overeating, or drugs, or whatever, becomes the way for them to get back to balance. It's not a character issue. So many people make addiction a character issue, and it's not. It's a balancing issue. The person is not able to balance their emotions and balance their nervous system and balance their mind without going to these things, which shows that their life is usually unbalanced. Now, I will tell you, the primary way to solve addiction is to increase social connection. The opposite of addiction is connection. Typically, addiction is formed whenever people are not getting enough dopamine from social connection, and so they look to addiction to give them that dopamine. That's why I started to have addictive behaviors whenever I was a kid, is because I was bullied, severely bullied. I'm not talking like just a couple times on the playground. I'm talking like I was targeted and severely bullied for many years. Even teachers bullied me. Some teachers were amazing, but even teachers turned against me. And I just didn't fit in. I didn't have cool hair, didn't have cool clothes, and I felt rejected. And so I looked to various addictions to help balance me out, right? And I didn't know that, though. See, that's the thing, is like, whenever you don't understand what's happening, you think the addiction is the problem, right? You think you've got an alcohol issue. You think you've got a porn issue. You think that you've got an eating issue. You think that you've got a nicotine issue, a vaping issue, smoking issue, whatever. And you don't understand that that is a symptom. The addiction is a symptom of the problem. So if you try to just directly through discipline, try to get rid of those addictions, you're probably not going to be very successful. Some people can be, through sheer willpower, overcome those addictions. But the real solution is to find a way to get your body, your nervous system, your emotions, your mind back to balance in a healthy way through either social connection or self-regulation or dealing with your emotions, or maybe you're just bored, so you need to find a way to add some excitement to your life or whatever. And then you will indirectly solve the addiction. So it's not a question of can you do that and still recover, like as far as the two things that you had mentioned. It's a matter of what are all the layers in your life, right? Because typically, like, you don't have to be perfect to recover from symptoms. If you did, nobody would recover, right? We work with people all the time that I'm almost baffled that they're able to recover because they really weren't as disciplined as they probably should have been. But recovery is really about addressing all the layers in your life that are leading to stress and fatigue, and then getting proper co-regulation, which is working with somebody that can create hope and be there with you through the ups and downs during recovery. Humans heal humans. 45% of healing these symptoms is co-regulation. So you need to learn how to self-regulate, deal with what's happening in your body, and then get co-regulation. And so anyway, with that being said, cool. Does anybody else have any other questions that they want to ask real quick? I've just got a few minutes here before I jump to my my client sessions. And I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for being a subscriber. Thank you for giving me a chance to help you. I'm honored. And now's your chance. If you want to ask me a question, I'm happy to help. So one tip for health anxiety is you can start asking the question, what else could this be that's not serious? I used to struggle with health anxiety for years and years and years. And my aunt's a doctor, and I would always call her up and I'd be like, hey, I feel like I'm dying. Like, I got this bump, or, or my heart's pounding, or this thing. Like, am I having a heart attack? And God bless her soul. But it was because I had trained my mind to always assume the worst case scenario. Like, as soon as that thought of a catastrophic health outcome came into my mind, I would automatically sit and meditate on that. I wasn't even considering an alternative outcome. And one of the things, which, I can't tell you how to fix health anxiety in 20 minutes, but one of the things that can help you on your journey of healing health anxiety is whenever your brain gives you that catastrophic outcome, that thought of what if I have cancer? What if I have a tumor? What if I'm dying? Which, make sure you see a doctor for sure. Get a clear bill of health. But you start to ask the question, what else could this be that's not serious? And then start to go through a list of the non-serious alternatives in your mind. And that will really help, right? And eventually you can retrain your brain to literally start to assume the least serious scenario. That's what I've done. After struggling with health anxiety, it was like 10 years. Now, if I have any sort of health things going on, which doesn't happen very often, but maybe something pops up, I literally am like, okay, well, what could this be that's not serious? And I start going through a list, right, of all these non-serious possibilities. What's up, Christina? Good to see you. Christina Lynn. I was diagnosed with existential OCD 6 months ago. One of my intrusive thoughts is when I die, everything will be black forever. Any advice? Yeah, so... Oh, cool, Nick. Awesome. Yeah, you're probably... I don't know who you're going to be talking to on my team, but yeah, I think I just spoke with somebody on my team that said they had a call in about 15 minutes, or 20 minutes ago. So that's awesome. Hopefully we can work with you, buddy. But Christina, I used to struggle with existential OCD like you would not believe. I used to think about existence and then boom, would instantly become depersonalized and derealized. I mean, it was just like, it was horrible, and panic, and I had all kinds of existential fears and obsessions. But here's what you need to know. You're not going to beat this directly. You're not going to beat these existential fears by stepping into the boxing ring with them and trying to overcome them. It's not going to work. And that's the mistake that people with existential OCD make, is they think that at some point they're going to be able to out-logic these fears or get some sort of mental clarity that these existential theories are not true. But the more that you try to overcome these theories, the more anxious that you're going to become. Because here's the truth about existential OCD, is we just don't really know what's going to happen after we die until we're dead, right? We won't really know what all this is until after we're dead. Now, I'm a Christian, and I firmly believe that there is a God. I firmly believe that I will go to heaven. I am very firm in my beliefs, but I also maintain that they could be wrong. I mean, nobody can sit there and say, like, there's no possibility that what I believe can be wrong. Like, I'm telling you, I'm about as confident as I can be in what I believe. But I also have to admit that, it still is faith, right? Faith. The Bible says faith is the substance of things unseen, the evidence of things hoped for. So I hope that what I believe is true. And let me tell you something. I don't want to get in all religious on you, but I've had some experiences that I'm telling you, man, I'm telling you, I believe what I believe for a reason. I've had some undeniable spiritual experiences that I'm not going to talk about on this live stream, but I'm pretty confident what I believe is true. Let me just tell you that. But with that being said, I could be wrong though. And so whenever I was struggling with existential OCD, I was still a Christian, but I was like, oh God, well, what if this existential theory is true? And what if that existential theory is true? And I would try to wrestle with it in my mind. And you want to know whenever I started to get relief? Whenever I laid the boxing gloves down and stepped out of the boxing ring entirely. I said, you know what? I am not in a state to be thinking about this stuff right now. And I started to walk away, and I started to just live my life. So there was other things that I did too, and I've got to move on. But that was one thing, is you have to accept that you're going to have to live life with that risk that in the end, this all could mean nothing. Because the alternative is if you base living life off of needing to know objectively what happens when we die or what the meaning of everything is, well, then you're never going to live your life, because we won't know until we're dead. So you have to just make that decision. I'm going to live my life. That is what I am in control of. Whenever you have these existential questions, these theories about existence that are terrifying to think about, it makes you feel out of control. And so to feel in control, you start to Google, you start to research, you obsess over it, you meditate over it, and you're hoping that maybe you could just get that intellectual clarity that these fears are not true. But that doesn't come, because we won't know until after we're dead. So you have to just accept that there is that risk, but we don't focus on it. And you focus on what you are in control of, which is living a great life, helping your friends and family, helping the world, even if nothing this is what I had to say whenever I was struggling with OCD, existential OCD. I said, you know what, even if this all amounts to nothing, I still want to help people, right? Even if we die and nothing happens, there are people that are suffering. And I believe it's my responsibility to help them, even if this earth is all we experience, even if my life only counted for helping people this side of eternity, whatever that state looks like. I still want to focus on that. And also, life can be enjoyable, right? Even if in the end nothing matters, which I believe it does, but even if it didn't, we still can live a great life. Why not? Why would we sit and dwell on these unanswerable questions? Like, it's just a complete waste of life. I've got a client right now. We're helping him overcome existential OCD. And man, like, he's just sitting in his house, just dwelling on existence, and he needs to have the answers to these questions. He found out something called solipsism, I think, and I don't even want to say what it is, but it's like an existential fear / theory, and he's like really worried about it, and he needs to have that clarity for him to move on. And I'm like, dude, you have to live and accept that risk that could be true, but not focus on that risk. And the example that I gave to him the other day is I said, there is a risk that if I go outside of my house, I could get hit by a car. My family and I would go for walks all the time. I could be going for a walk and freaking maybe an Elon Musk satellite falls out of the sky and then just hits me in my head. I've already been hit a lot, as you can see these scars. I got kids threw rocks at me whenever I was younger. But yeah, that could happen. Every time you get in a car, you could get into a car accident. You could die of a brain aneurysm. You could die of cancer. You could die of a heart attack. All these things are risks that we embrace every single day, but we still live our lives, don't we? So you have to do the same thing, but with these existential fears and rumination. You see what I'm saying? You have to live life despite the risk of those things being true. Because the alternative is that you're just going to sit and dwell on these theories that you're never going to have answers to until after you're dead. You're setting yourself up for unlimited suffering until after you're dead. So the first step, again, I've got like a 4 or 5 phase framework for this that we teach our clients. But one thing you can do is whenever that thought comes in, I'm not going to wrestle with this. You step out of the boxing ring and focus back on your life. That is one thing that will quickly start to help you too. Okay? Does anyone else's symptoms get worse when they're exercising? So you're saying derealization kicks in whenever you're exercising. So what's happening is you're, think of it like a cup, right? You're walking around, like this is your body, and you're walking around with a lot of stress in your body. And whenever you exercise, it's going to increase stress. It's sympathetic nervous system activation, right? Now, technically, assuming that you're walking around with a low level of stress doesn't become a problem until fatigue kicks in. There's something called good stress and bad stress. Good stress is sympathetic nervous system activation that enhances performance. Like if you're jogging or you're riding a roller coaster, you're experiencing stress. But you see it as empowering or exciting if you're running or if it's a carnival or whatever, roller coaster. But once you hit that point of fatigue, that's whenever good stress transitions into bad stress or distress. And then eventually, if you continue on that journey, the stress builds up. Let's say that this is like fatigue. Builds up. Eventually, boop, you're going to hit that overwhelm point. Once you hit that overwhelm point, that is a trauma response, and that's what induces derealization or depersonalization for some people. So the answer, my friend, Mario, is that we need to reduce your baseline level of stress and fatigue in your life, and that looks like addressing a lot of factors in your life and body, so that way you're walking around at such a low level of stress that you can handle exercising. Whenever I was suffering with symptoms, it got so bad. People couldn't even be negative around me. That's how sensitive that I was. It's called our window of tolerance for stress, right? It's how much stress can you handle before it leads to hypervigilance, which is anxiety and panic, or hypovigilance, which is trauma, right? And the more that you carry tension, adrenaline, emotion in your body, and you're not releasing it, you're not self-regulating, you're not working from a place of rest, you don't have boundaries in your life, the more that you are on your way to either hypervigilance or hypovigilance. There's going to be so much tension and adrenaline and emotion buildup that your brain's going to think that there's a lion eating you. So that's why self-regulation is paramount. No problem, Christine. I hope that helped you. Allie says, I strongly believe that we had the very mechanism to recover within our bodies, minds, souls that broke us at the beginning. You do have a built-in capacity to overcome these symptoms. Absolutely. Dr. Peter Levine, a world-renowned trauma expert, says human beings are born with an innate capacity to triumph over trauma. One of my favorite quotes. And that applies to anxiety too. There's technically no such thing as anxiety. I don't like that phrase. It's fight or flight response. And it's important that we correctly identify what's going on from a scientific perspective, from a nervous system perspective. Because if you think that you have anxiety, well, then it's implied that really the best you can do is manage it. And it also implies that it's appropriate, right? Like I tell people, you know, if I were to come to you and say, hey, you know, I've been struggling with anxiety at work, man, and I had to leave work because of my anxiety and I can't sleep because of my anxiety, what would you say? You'd probably be like, yeah, I understand. Yeah. But if I came to you and I said, I am in immediate physical danger at work, I'm surrounded by immediate physical danger. I came home and I tried to sleep and I couldn't because there was danger everywhere. What would you say? You'd be like, where do you work? Like, where do you live? What the heck's going on here, right? But technically speaking, that's a more accurate assessment of what's going on. Your body is preparing to address a threat in the form of fight or flight response. Let's say you're not in a trauma response, you're just experiencing anxiety. By calling it fight or flight response, which is more appropriate for what's actually happening, it allows us to understand what the solution is. And it also makes it inappropriate, right? Because it's inappropriate for you to be in a threat response where there is no threat. And you're much less likely to manage symptoms and you're going to seek to eliminate them. But also it speaks to the solution. Well, what's the opposite of threat? Safety. That is how we get you out of anxiety and panic. And that's also how we get you out of a trauma response, which is a state of nervous system overwhelm. Establishing safety. Doing things with your body and in your life that communicate that there is no lion about to eat you, and especially co-regulation, which is 45% of healing these symptoms according to a lot of major studies, because humans heal humans. Nothing conveys more safety than working with a human that understands you. It's just how we're wired. And then self-regulation is you getting all this tension, adrenaline, emotion, fatigue out of your body that is conveying threat to your nervous system. You got to stop avoiding too. That's another thing that we work with our clients, because whenever you avoid triggers, your brain assumes that whatever you're avoiding is a lion trying to eat you. So you have to replace avoidance with exposure. Very, very important. That's one of the layers. And you can't build your life around the symptoms anymore. That's another thing that's conveying threat to your nervous system, right? You're checking in to see if the symptoms are there, to see if they're worse today than yesterday. You're comparing yourself to other people. You're researching the symptoms. You're talking about the symptoms. And that's part of what's keeping you stuck. Because every time that you check in and they're still there, stress. Every time that you talk about the symptoms, stress. Every time that you compare yourself to other people, stress. Right? Do you see all these things that you're doing that are conveying threat to the nervous system? It's causing your stress to stay so built up that your nervous system can't downregulate. You're not self-regulating, number one, which is very important. You don't have co-regulation, most likely. You may. And then you're also actively doing things that are just revving up your nervous system. And why are you doing that? It's not because you're a bad person. It's because you're afraid. And you think the only thing standing between you and these symptoms being permanent is you fixing this. But in reality, you trying to fix this is one of the biggest layers as to why you're not out of this yet. And it's not something that other mammals do. Other mammals don't stay stuck in fight, flight, freeze response. And one of the reasons is because they don't overthink everything. So in your attempt to help, you're actually hindering your body's natural ability to heal itself. If you had a broken arm, you would not try to fix your broken arm, would you? You would wear the cast. But because you didn't understand your symptoms or why they were there, and they made you feel out of control, you stepped into the driver's seat and you made trying to get rid of this a part-time or full-time job. And that is one of the layers. Remember, there's a lot of layers to this as to why you can't get out of this yet, because you're trying too hard to get rid of this. And that's not your job. Just like your body can heal a broken arm, your body can get you out of these symptoms. You need to be focusing on self-regulation and co-regulation. Okay? All right, guys. I do have to jump off here. I do have clients actually starting right now. I do got to jump. I hope you guys were helped by this. I really poured out my heart. Hope you can see that. And if you guys want to work with us, go to any of the videos. There's a link. You'll get to take our free 45-minute masterclass, regardless of whether you work with us. It shows you the 5 shifts, how to eliminate anxiety, trauma, DPDR. But there's a button. If you would like to work with us, we would love to help you transform your life, rewire your nervous system. We're ready to go. If you're ready to take this seriously, you're ready to give it your all, I'm ready to work with you. In all of our programs, you're going to work directly with me. And I would love to be your mentor, help you out of this. I've worked with over 5,000 symptom sufferers. I know this recovery path inside and out. There's nothing that you're going through that I haven't seen. I would be there to encourage you, motivate you, support you along the way, and teach you how to get to the root of this and help you identify the layers that are specific to you, keeping you in these symptoms. Check it out. I got to run, guys. No problem, Christina. Thank you. Yeah, grounding exercises are fine, but that's not really, it's like if you don't directly get rid of the tension, adrenaline, emotion in your body, you're not going to be able to ground. That's why most of the time that doesn't work. There's too much buildup. You can't be safely embodied when your body is chock full of tension, adrenaline, and emotion, right? So that's my opinion on that. All right, thank you guys. Hope you guys have an awesome day. I'm going to do these possibly every day for a little bit. So make sure to stay tuned, turn on notification bell. I got to run.